There is a secret that most pro athletes, elite CEOs, and high performers all know. They all have a group of world-class coaches working for them to help them optimize their potential. At SuperAthlete Radio, our goal is to provide you with the caliber of world-class coaches and guests to help you unlock your potential, dominate your industry, and dominate your life. Let's get better today. Welcome back to SuperAthlete Radio, where today we have a great episode for you. How to get super hard things done, how you can raise your free testosterone without taking TRT, and how to get more out of your strength training with a specific training method. And if you guys have not yet left a review, do me a favor, leave a review for us at SuperAthlete Radio. It's the easiest thing you can do to support the show, and it's totally free. How to get super hard things done. Last week on SuperAthlete Radio, we had a great episode with entrepreneur and 26-year military and special forces veteran Phil Kornichuk, who shared his story and provided some great peak performance wisdom. And one of the things that I got from there, or one of the biggest takeaways I had in terms of how he developed himself and all the things he accomplished, was as he went through his military career, he consistently had leaders who would come to him and said, hey, you should try out for Army Rangers, you should do Ranger School, you should try out for Green Berets. And Kornichuk would always be hesitant to do these things because he's like, am I one of those guys? Am I really capable of doing that? But he always did them, and he was always successful in doing them. And then when I asked him why, he said that the number one reason he felt he was able to complete Ranger School and Green Beret and another special ops school was no matter what the task, or I should say the harder the task, the more focus and more intensity and more effort Phil put into it. And I think that's a really, really powerful piece of wisdom that we can apply to our lives and everything that we do, whether that's training, whether that's work, whether that's dealing with stuff that we don't want to deal with in terms of personal relationships and family. You know, because the flip side of that is you complain about it, you kind of think about why me, then you have a victim mindset. Phil has a very heroic mindset in terms of how he did that, and it led to amazing, extraordinary, impeccable results. So my challenge to you is, what's one thing in your life right now that is arduous, challenging, has you feeling hesitant, has you feeling a little bit of fear, and how can you 10x your effort and your intensity into doing that task? You know, also, many of you guys are entrepreneurs who listen to this, where you have to do a lot of mundane stuff that's not on the shiny, social media bright lights in terms of the benefits. So how hard can you do those tasks? How hard can you go? How much focus and intensity can you do? And it obviously works really well. It worked for Phil and gave him the opportunity to accomplish extraordinary things. But also I think it's a key way to add more fulfillment to our lives. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with a gentleman by the name of Dr. K, where he talked about happiness is really our ability to have our brain get to a single point of attention. And the more time in our day where our brain gets to a single point of attention, then the happier and more fulfilled we will be. So whether that's getting in a flow state, he gave the analogy of whether that's, or not the analogy, but he gave the example of when you have an orgasm. But this is an example based on Phil's wisdom that we can make anything, the mundane, into something that's powerful. And in doing that, by putting all our focus, putting all our intensity into one specific task, no matter how boring, no matter how challenging, no matter how arduous, we're going to get more fulfillment out of it, we're going to get better results out of it, and it's going to lead to peak performance. As Steven Kotler, who's he is the world's thought leader on flow, he wrote a book called The Art of Impossible. And in that book, he talks about how do you accomplish the impossible? than possible is doing a daily checklist. And in this case, it's doing a checklist of hard, boring, challenging things with as much effort and with as much intensity and with as much focus as possible. So I thought that was really good. I get questions all the time, as you guys probably know, because I talk about it, in terms of what men can do to raise their testosterone and how they can do it without, I'm a big believer in unless you're, mid-50s, older, to do it without TRT, because there's other things that you can do. And in doing that, using botanicals and herbs, you're able to still produce your own testosterone, which I think is always the better route to go. So I wanted to talk today about Shilajit, which is something that I've taken for years. I'm a huge fan of. And I wanted to talk about some additional benefits to it. So Shilajit is I call it a sludge, but it's really a rock residue found in the sedimentary rocks of the Himalayan, Altai, and other mountain ranges. And in Ayurveda, it is regarded as a super vitalizer. It contains fulvic acids as the main components, along with free and conjugated DBPs. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. And more than 40 minerals, and is included as an ingredient in a number of current available nutritional supplements. This was a study in Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition in 2019, and it looked at whether Shilajit was beneficial in terms of strength, concentric peak torque, fatigue-induced percentage decline in strength, and also in serum hydroxyproline, HYP. And there were some very interesting, very positive results. So what they concluded, this was in 2019, again in the International Society of Sports Nutrition, demonstrated that 8 weeks of Prima V Shilajit supplementation at 500 milligrams. What my understanding with Shilajit is to break it up because of its half-life, to break up that 500 into 2 doses of 250 milligrams, once in the morning, once at night. And what it did is it promoted the retention of maximal muscular strength following the fatiguing protocol and decreased baseline HYP. So basically the end result was it elicited favorable muscle and connective tissue adaptations. So I think that's awesome, because we're about to show some verification in terms of how it benefits free testosterone. And it also looks like from a physical performance, athletic performance perspective, Shilajit does some amazing things as well. This article references that Shilajit, in its organic form, increased ATP availability via improved mitochondrial function in mice. Anything that improves mitochondria is a good thing for performance and longevity. And also increased free testosterone, total testosterone, and they also help promote in lean mass and muscular strength. So, very beneficial, Shilajit. And now let's talk about what it does for free testosterone. Okay, so I personally like the brand Pure Shilajit. It's a white, pink, and blue box. And dosage is 200 milligrams. So I usually take 2 in the morning and then 1 at night. And I have noticed that in doing my blood work over the last few years that it increases testosterone. We've noticed that with clients. And then also the science backs that up. This is from an article in 2015 from the First International Journal of Andrology, where they evaluated healthy volunteers of Shilajit between 45 and 55 years, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical study at a dose of 250 milligrams twice a day. treatment with Shilajit for consecutive 90 days revealed that it significantly increased total testosterone, free testosterone, compared to placebo. Again, it talks about the beautiful sludge that is Shilajit, a pale brown to blackish brown exudate that oozes from sedimentary rocks worldwide. It doesn't taste the best, but it's a lot of good stuff that it does for you. It's an important drug of the ancient Ayurvedic medical. We talked about in a minute. We talked a second ago about how it is a super vitalizer, and it's used for a variety of diseases. Traditional uses of Shilajit primarily focus not only on diabetes and diseases of the urinary tract, but also on tumors, muscle wasting, going back to what we were talking about in the last article, epilepsy, and even insanity. God bless that. Okay, I'm looking for here how much it increased testosterone, free testosterone. It was observed in the treated group. There was an increase in testosterone levels on day 30 by 7%, day 60 by additional 3%, and day 90 by 20% with respect to day 0. So testosterone had increased a total of 20% by day 90, and that's impressive. Just for some sludge that you find under a rock. If your testosterone was at 500, it would go up to 600 just by taking this sludge every day. So I highly recommend it. Again, the brand I use is Pure Shilajit, naturally rich in fulvic acid. And I think it is a simple, powerful, easy, simple technique you can apply to up your testosterone, which of course is going to increase your energy, your sex drive, your strength and power numbers in the weight room, and all that really good stuff. And I love taking it. It's one of the many things I take. Okay, how to get more benefits out of strength training. We get this question all the time as well. How to get better results out of the gym. And there's all kinds of different stuff that you can do. Today we're going to talk about something called cluster training. I learned about this a few years ago when I got a certificate from Charles Poliquin and StrengthSensei.com. I consider Charles Poliquin, if not the best, definitely one of the greatest strength coaches of all time. The man was just ahead of his time in terms of connecting strength to neurotransmitters and to personalized nutrition and blood work, and he was just absolutely incredible. It was just a walking encyclopedia of strength and athletic performance, and he was just an amazing exemplar of someone who read an extraordinary amount of research. So he had kind of the scientific data background, and then on the other side of that, I don't know how many Olympic medalists he trained, but it was an extraordinary number of different sports. So super, super, super impressive. Shout out to Charles Poliquin. We did a podcast last week on the benefits of lifting heavy. Now, we have a lot of guys and women in their 40s, in their 50s that follow us, and what we talked about on that podcast is it's one of the free biohacks you can do to really increase the hormones that you want to increase, activate the neurotransmitters that you want to activate, get stronger, be more of a physical presence, is to lift heavy weights. Now, not to do this all the time, but what I see in kind of the mainstream media is that it's gone a little bit too far the other way for people in their 40s and 50s to be not lifting heavy, right? You don't have to lift heavy all the time, but strength and being strong is something that's super, super, super valuable. And how you get stronger is by lifting heavy weights. So what I want to talk about today is cluster training. And how this works is, let's talk about the deadlift. I think the deadlift is a powerful exercise that activates your entire kinetic chain, your posterior chain. So from your Achilles up to your calves, up to your hamstrings, glutes, and hips. and lower back and core. So the deadlift, I think, is a fantastic exercise that you want to try and lift heavy, as long as that you have the proper technique and you're taking care of that lower back. And how you would apply cluster training to the deadlift is to, let's say your 1 rep max is 400. So let me grab a calculator here. So let's say your 1 rep max on the deadlift is 400 pounds. So your 3 rep, we would then calculate at between 87 and 90%. So let's say 88.5% of 400. That's 354. So if you could deadlift 400 pounds, then you can 3 rep 354 pounds. So let's say we work ourselves, we get ourselves a nice warm up, we do a dynamic warm up, we do a set at 135, we do a set at 185, we do a set at 225, we do a set at 220, 275. Now we're ready to go at 354. And how most people would do sets of 3 is they would do a set of 3, rest 3 to 5 minutes to let the ATP system, we talked about that and how Shilajit benefits the ATP system, get fully restored, and then do another set. Do, on average, usually people do about 5 sets, the common 5 sets of 5, 5 sets of 3. How cluster training works is once we get up to 354 pounds, we would plan on doing 5 reps. So we would do 1, rest 15 to 20 seconds, then do another one, rest 15 to 20 seconds, do another one, rest 15 to 20 seconds, do another one, rest 15 to 20 seconds, and then do a 5th one, rest 15 to 20 seconds, and then we would do our 3 to 5 minute rest. And again, during the rest, I'm a big believer in doing stuff like tendon work, ankle mobility, a lot of the knees over toes stuff I think is fantastic in terms of how to use your rest time appropriately. But I learned working with and seeing in action really high-level college football programs in the weight room where every single minute guys were moving. And I think it's super advantageous. A lot of you guys are super busy. You know, when you're in the weight room, let's keep moving. Let's keep things going. So while the muscles of the deadlift are resting, while those are resting, you want to be doing other stuff. So how does this benefit in terms of cluster training? Well, if you do 5 sets, instead of doing 5 sets of 5 at 354 pounds, 5 sets of 3 at 354 pounds, you're doing 5 sets of 5 at 354 pounds. So you are getting an additional 10 reps in at a very heavy weight, which if that's 87 to 90% of your deadlift, it is going to get you strong quickly. And how this works with cluster training is it works because that 15 to 20 second rest gives your body just enough to be able to get a couple more reps in at that heavy weight, which is going to increase the volume of your workout. And of course, how the benefits that you get in your workout are going to be determined by the volume, the intensity, and how much weight you use. So I'm a huge fan of cluster training. Paul Quinn advertised that for strength specifically, but I don't want to get into it here because it just gets a little bit more extensive in terms of numbers. But if you guys want in terms of like power or hypertrophy, cluster training can work there as well. Just send me a message and I'd be happy to respond to you in terms of helping you determine that. And there you have it. I hope you found this episode super helpful. So here's my challenge to you today. We are going to attack everything that we find extremely hard, difficult, tedious in our lives with a super high level of focus and intensity. Try Shilajit, 500 milligrams, broken up because of its half dose life, 2 times a day, to increase your free testosterone and to get more benefit out of your strength training or just training the weight room overall. If you want to increase power or hypertrophy, try cluster training, which is super powerful. Hope you guys found this episode helpful, and we will continue to bring y'all the heat. See you guys at the next episode. Let's get better today.